Yoel, can you hear me?
Sorry, there we go. My bad. Okay, technical issue fixed.
Woo!
Can you hear me now? Okay, that was my fault. I actually had my microphone on mute, so that was all on me. Starting over. All right, this week is CyberTech. For those that are joining us, welcome back to the playback. It's CyberTech this week. There's conferences all week over in Tel Aviv, and we're going to talk about that, why you should go, if you're going, what you should look for, what professionals you should be networking with, other software security solutions that there are specifically for you in the cybersecurity community. We're going to talk about Yotam, which is a leading voice for cybersecurity. You know, huge enthusiast, just like I am, probably even bigger than me in a sense, spends much more time on cybersecurity than I do. He's got a lot of good passion about it. We're going to get into it. First and foremost, Yotam, what is CyberTech? And then second, we're going to get into a little bit about the ecosystem here in Israel.
So hi, Yoel, thank you for having me on this lovely day. Today is the first day of CyberTech 2020. What started as a small local show 7 years ago actually matured into one of the biggest cybersecurity events in the world. It's actually currently the biggest one outside of the mainland United States, and definitely the biggest one in Asia Pac and the EMEA region. What makes this event so interesting is, in addition to all the big players that you'll have in all the security shows, the McAfee's, the Symantec, the Checkpoints, Palo Altos, and the like, which are all represented here, this enables you to see a glimpse of the local cybersecurity ecosystem and really understand the current and future trends, because you'll be seeing all the small up-and-coming startups that have literally, there's no other way or place that you can see them. They have a special pavilion for them. They make it exceptionally cheap so everyone can participate. And that's really your only chance to, see about 70 cybersecurity startups in one place. So that's what makes this show so unique and interesting.
Awesome. So if you're one of these cybersecurity companies, you're like, okay, I'm sitting next to 70 other. How does one distinguish themselves? How do they get what they need out of it?
So I think that there's like a very main focus on the big companies, and they do the big booth and all the shebangs and the giveaways. But other than that, small companies, as you said, they don't have the marketing budget or they don't have the know-how. But what they do have is a product or technology that addresses a specific need. So what's my recommendation to the startup is take a look at the cybersecurity landscape. There are about 150 categories, and you need to be able to convey very clearly which pain you're addressing. So if you're in IoT or in mobile or in cloud, you should really focus on that fact and then explain what you're doing differently than others. We've seen tremendous amounts of buzzwords in the last 10 years in the industry. Next gen is now very old gen.
That's true.
AI, ML, behavioral. We've had VR and AR. It's all come and gone. People are sick of all those buzzwords. They want you to explain what they get out of the product. So a lot of the cybersecurity products that you're seeing now is actually not aimed at solving security problems per se. They're not going to stop threats, but they are facilitating the work of security professionals. There's a whole branch that's called SOAR, Security Orchestration and Automation, that actually helps to deal with a massive amount of alerts. The security companies realize that the challenge is not so much to identify the threats, but to handle them. So one of the things that these companies did very well was to speak to security professionals and explain to them what is the value of using their products, and hence companies grew very quickly to very respectable sizes because they solve a very acute problem. So identify what part of the landscape you're dealing with and how you're going to tackle that different. If you're doing it differently, then you might see a lot of traction.
All right, so let's get right into a little bit about our ecosystem here in Israel when it comes to the cybersecurity industry. Let's jump right in. All right, this is, I think, those that I've spoken to many influencers and professionals abroad that are here in Israel, many for their first time, which is really cool. They're only here for the week. They're only really get to see some touring, unfortunately. So for all you guys coming to Israel, we want to welcome you. And if you guys need any help or anything, feel free to reach out with anything you need. I used to work in tourism in Israel, so I know all the sites and everything you should be seeing for first-time or even returning visitors. But so let's provide some value here. First off, so people can understand, cybersecurity in Israel. What percentage of the cybersecurity startups in the world are in Israel?
It's difficult to say. The numbers vary, but the consensus is there are about 300 cybersecurity startups here, which makes it the higher cyber per capita in the world.
Yeah, by far, though, but it's not even close.
By far, and if you
Right.
compare it to much larger countries like the UK or Germany,
We have more in total.
they'll have like 70 cybersecurity startups or 100.
Right.
Okay, and we're much smaller. We're around
Right.
8 million people, and there's about 300. So you can do the math.
That's pretty nuts, right?
Yeah.
So if you don't have a cybersecurity startup, it's like, what are you?
Yeah. And the question bears, I mean, how much more can people innovate? But even this year, there's been about a dozen or so new cybersecurity startups that have been founded. So apparently, there's a lot of innovation that can still come into play. In addition to the total number and relative number, which are both impressive, we have two things that we need to bear in mind when we talk about cybersecurity in Israel. While cyber wasn't invented here, okay, it's definitely one of the places where it's put into practice the most, and that's because of our geopolitical situation. Israel is facing threats from its neighbors, from close and afar, and the authorities here, the military forces, secret services, the like, had to develop all these technologies to defend ourselves. All these proliferate to the civilian world when the people finish their military service, and then they can start their own companies. They don't have a lot of limitations on what they can do as long as they're not selling really hardcore offensive cybersecurity. So that kind of spawned the industry. In addition to that, we have a very strong VC culture and ecosystem here in Israel. There are about 200 international and local bodies doing venture capital here, and that's a lot of money that's been poured into the industry. And we have very strong academia that helps with cybersecurity research.
How does the academia play a part?
Because a lot of the cybersecurity products, they require a long and tedious research that takes years. Let's say the whole branch that deals with securing industrial systems, that takes a lot of time and effort. You now have specific cyber solutions for trains, for vehicles, for even the maritime sectors. All these takes a lot of R&D that the cyber industry is not always willing to intake. So this can be taken by the academia, and it also is another source of very qualified manpower. So when you fuse the academic know-how, the military know-how, our, let's say, entrepreneurial DNA and venture capital ecosystem, you get such an explosive amount of startups.
Mm-hmm. Excellent. Okay, so let's see if someone comes out of the army, someone wants to, let's say someone, so would you say many founders come from Shmona, which is the 8200 unit, right?
Correct.
So maybe if you can explain shortly, what is it unique about this unit, the experience that they gain that nowhere else, let's say, in the world that other people don't get? What is so great about, let's say, this school, you can call it, right?
Yeah. Well, I would say it's unique in the sense that you can find similar talent and activities in GCHQ in the UK or NSA in the United States. Okay, these places have their own training schools, and they do provide a lot of qualified manpower. But in Israel, the fact that people enlist into the army when they're 18, they spend 3, even more years doing very hardcore hands-on activities in the cyber. You can imagine that they're doing a lot of offensive activities and also defensive cybersecurity. So the amount of experience that they gain within their service is something that is comparable to someone working in a civilian company for many years. But when they conclude their service, they're 21, 22. They're very hungry. They have a lot of energy. They don't mind, working in a basement and developing the next solution. So they have all these skills, the talent, and the drive, and that's really what makes this possible.
So, but now the NSA has 10 times the people than 8200 does, right? I remember
Correct.
Netanyahu, the Prime Minister Netanyahu spoke about this last year at CyberTech. And I think he's speaking this year too. When he's speaking today or tomorrow, or I think tomorrow.
It's still in DC, so it
Right.
remains to
Okay.
be
Whatever.
seen whether we make it back.
Okay. Anyway, so and he was saying that I remember this. The NSA is 10 times larger, and he thinks it's going to be one of the biggest industries, which I agree with. I mean, cybersecurity is going to be the biggest. Everything needs cybersecurity. You can think of how many different pieces and companies of cybersecurity just go into what we're doing now. Right,
Correct.
live, the different the Wi-Fi we're using, the internet that we're using, so many things that can hack it. You know what I mean? We're connected through my phone. Like right now, there's so much cybersecurity protecting us, and then every single app you use is really crazy when you think about it. Like it's every little thing, but just like you could think of every like almost electrical circuit that's in your life right now. You know what I mean? It can almost be, in a sense, can maybe be hacked. You know, that we need cybersecurity for all of these things in order to make sure everything runs smoothly. But what you didn't address is you're saying, so I mean, it's not unique what 8200 has in the Army than, let's say, what was a GCHQ or the NSA. But then how can we have so many more people's funding startups? People say, when you leave 8200, people are waiting for your idea and ready to throw money at you often. So
Correct.
why is that unique to here than, let's say, the States, Britain, or any other country? Is it because just throwing some ideas out there? Is it maybe because that, let's say, the government is more liberal with you taking your ideas and immediately entering the market in the private sector, or even that they're encouraging it? Is it, is there more experience? Is it more hands-on? Do you think people have more real life experience? Is it that there's more of a sandbox, let's say in 8200 than other places, where, let's say, more of a flatter hierarchy? So so everything from the top and the knowledge flows both ways, and you're able to. So what do you think these are some things people talk about, but what do you think is actually the biggest thing that helps Israelis that leave the army doing cybersecurity or an 8200? What are the advantages that they have over anyone else?
I think if anything else, it's their profile. The fact that people who go into 8200, they don't choose it as a professional career. Okay, they do have to do a
But they
mandatory
should.
service.
I'm just saying. What do you think? The 8200 is a fantastic career path. I mean, it's already.
No. But I'm saying, if you compare it to the NSA, people go there after college. They're like 23, 4, 5. They
Right.
go, they serve for 10 years, either as a contractor or as a full time. By the time they finish that, they're in a different place in their lives. Whereas if you're 24, you literally have nothing to lose,
You can
and you
take
have
risks.
all this energy of being a youngster. And what's
Right.
very important as well, you mentioned the fact that they're doing a lot of stuff because it's smaller, so everyone does more, but they work in small teams. So a lot of time you'll set up, you'll finish your military service, and roughly with the same time with your peers, people you've worked with very closely, literally many sleepless nights, and they're now like they're more than just your comrades. I mean, they're now becoming your co-founders. Whether in other places you have to find another co-founder and then see if you have a fit. These are people who have literally lived together for the past year. So there's very strong cohesion between them, and that makes the early stages of the startups much easier, because we know most startups fail because the team fall apart, not because they don't have an idea or ability to execute. So these guys are terrific at execution. They usually have very strong relations between them. You see many times 2 3 friends starting that together after serving together, and that's really something that's very unique in the world. I don't think they're brighter than people serving in NSA. Definitely not. And by the way, 8200 is not the only unit to spawn cybersecurity startups. There are a
Right.
lot of other companies, but they're definitely the biggest, and they've done huge PR for themselves.
That's a good point. It's important
Yeah,
that you mentioned that it's a lot greater than that, but they are the biggest. And
yeah.
also something that you mentioned, as both you and I are both marketers, helping out cybersecurity companies, is the PR. So why don't we break off and talk about that for a minute? So Israel has, and with the help of the prime minister, does a really good job at branding and PRing Israel as a cybersecurity hub. But now, of course, you have to back it up. You can't just bullshit it. So it is true that it is a hub for cybersecurity. And the branding and the marketing and trying to attract people to come here has been great. So two things to talk about. One, how has Israel branded and marketed now, and where do you think it's going in the future? And then second, more specifically, there's trying to brand Beersheba in the desert as the cybersecurity hub as opposed to Tel Aviv. What are your thoughts on that? Do you think they're succeeding?
Yeah, so Israel is rightfully regarded as a startup nation and cybersecurity nation for all the reasons that we've mentioned. The state is doing, I think, very prominent efforts to continue this momentum. It has been out there for 5 years. Prime Minister Netanyahu has done a great job. He's a marketer at heart, so that this is his turf, and
Right.
he knows how to play it. I think the fact that we're still seeing momentum is not so much due to the fact that what I've mentioned before, the cyber threats and the way that Israel has attacked or hasn't attacked Iran in the Stuxnet virus. I think it's due to the fact that we've seen a constant stream of very successful startups being spawned here and sold. Okay, we've seen very large deals coming from Israel. I mean, we have the founders generation of checkpoints and the likes, big companies doing great work, but the stream of M&As and exits that we've seen here is simply staggering. So people know now throughout the world that not only that this is the place where people innovate because they're young and very creative, but they know how to build good products that sell, and companies
Right.
that sell. But that helps a lot to fuel the momentum. You see a lot of money. It's not just a matter of technology and
Are,
innovation.
Are we lacking any kind of management or things here? In my opinion, I mean, coming from America and working for a large enterprise, I used to work at Xerox. I mean, is that I feel like there's in general technology. I mean, I think, or actually in general, I don't think there's really good, strong mid management here in order to help companies grow. That's my opinion. What do you think? What do you think is missing from the recipe of to let's say a little bit more startup cybersecurity and help them mature? Thankfully, there is a trend here in Israel for startups in general to not sell out right away. You know what I mean? Is take funding but not get acquired. Do you think that's also happening in cyber? And what do you think is the kind of skills and services that the professionals are coming and visiting here, or those that are serving cybersecurity, that you can provide that we really need, that you can give an added benefit?
So I think it's been discussed throughout the couple last year, because we have seen large companies come out of Israel, and we're slowly shifting from a startup nation to a scale-up nation. And it's not just a change that happens here; it happens throughout the world, and we're seeing. I think it's mainly because of the technology, the shift to the cloud, to open platforms, everything. It's easier to build bigger companies and bigger offering. You don't have to.
Because of the cloud. Wait, you're saying because hold up. You're saying I just want to make sure I understand you. And you're
Sure.
saying because of the cloud and other technologies, it's easier for a technology company to what?
To
Why?
scale.
What? Okay, to scale, that's fine. But why does that stop them from being exiting and buying out, right? So maybe your argument would be like, okay, they might not need funding because they can scale or as much funding or as soon or give as much equity, because on their own without the funding, they can maybe do more scaling. But what's stopping them from wanting to sell out, check out, and move on and start another startup or all that? You know what I mean?
Yeah. The two different questions. Let's talk about the technology and the processes first. So you ask what we're lacking as Israelis, and I can say very honestly that we're not very good at doing stuff at scale, working very organized with methods and processes. So a lot of the startups that you'll be seeing here in CyberTech, their goal is to shift their center of gravity to the United States. That's the biggest market. So after a year or so, the CEO will relocate, he'll hire a local team, and they'll hopefully will build the infrastructure there. But what's the cloud has enabled, and the fact that a lot of cybersecurity products are now SaaS based, so you don't have to go and meet every client, you don't have to sell, do a proof of concept. You can do
Right.
these things over the web. So that allows the companies here to scale uh, much more before they do, and then they have to leap. Okay, they have to go there at some point. If you want to sell to enterprises, you have to be there, you have to meet them. But the fact that you can do it, so after you have, I don't know, 1,000 clients or 1,000, I don't know, active users or something like that, it makes a whole lot of difference. The flip side of that is once you grow very quickly, very fast, then your valuation increases. So obviously the number of companies or investment bodies that can buy you it decreases because there are now lots of money on the table.
You're out of the
Okay.
market. You
Yeah,
basically priced yourself out of what a lot of people can afford.
correct. I mean, the
And
company
people
that I
try to do
work
it.
with, you can see SentinelOne has raised $230 million to date, might be raising more. And that, I mean, valuation is close to $1 billion. That's not an easy check to write. So it's easy for companies such as that to continue to scale up and either be bought by a giant company like Intel buying Mobileye for 19 billion, or even to IPO, which a lot of companies are again considering, given that the economic landscape is improving again.
Excellent. So, tell me about a little bit about Beersheba, right? So, we've been trying to, as a
Yeah,
as a country, so almost all the technology is in Greater Tel Aviv, which is basically, if you do all of Greater Tel Aviv, it's like 3 million people. Tel
yeah,
Aviv actually within its border is, I think, like 380,000, like 400,000 people. I think it's not even
right.
right, something like that. So technically, it's like smaller than Boston, but obviously the metro area is almost times 10, and like half the country's population because we're basically a city state. Oh, by the way, I just want to comment to people. We have 16 people watching live right now. We've had a lot more come and go. If you guys have any questions, please put in the comments. You can also ping me on WhatsApp or send me a direct message on LinkedIn. I'll make sure to have these tabs open. If you have any questions, ask us directly. If you comment, there is a large, it could take a little longer to show. So feel free to message us privately and we'll address any questions or comments you might have. You can just send me a LinkedIn message also. Anyway, so back to saying, so Beersheba, what's the purpose? I mean, I know it's very Zionist to try to kind of like to diversify the technology throughout the land, and being doing able to do that's a very Zionist thing, and so it's
Correct.
important. And we're so overly centralized right now we're overly centralized in Tel Aviv, concentrated, not more than centralized. It's good to decentralize. It's also because the cost of living is so expensive in these areas. Now we're bringing technology and job opportunities to populations that wouldn't been able to reach them otherwise, which is excellent. So I'm wondering if maybe, so please tell me a little bit about Beersheba and why it's unique. We know there's, I have my opinion, but I'm sure you probably have a lot. You're more interesting. So why don't you give it a go?
So
Explain.
as you mentioned, Beersheba and let's say turning Beersheba into cyber capital of Israel is coming from Zionist motives. Historically, Israel once been 70% occupied by desert, and Beersheba being the largest metropolitan in this area, it makes a lot of sense to put very strong economic engines in that area, and cyber could be one of them because you don't need I mean, you don't need resources, you don't need anything, just people and computer, and you can have it there.
Right.
Uh, the thing about branding Beersheba as cyber, I think cyber capital was a little too soon. Okay, and the fact is, for an ecosystem to thrive, you need to have like a critical mass of people, of VCs, of universities. So Beersheba is an excellent university with a very good cyber department, and they do their bit. But other than that, you're not really seeing the ecosystem of young people, of hungry entrepreneurs who are, craving to start new companies. And even if they do, they find it hard to recruit the manpower that they need to build the technology over there, because people don't want to travel from central Israel to Beersheba every day. It's like an hour and a half commute. And I mean, young people want to live. This is like Manhattan of Israel, right? Everyone
Right.
wants to live in Manhattan.
It's a great city if you don't have
Yeah.
kids. If you don't
So,
have kids, I love the city.
so that's very challenging. I think what will finally tip the scales and help Beersheba become that will be, just like with everything else in Israel, will be the military. There's a big
Mhm.
shift, and it's not something secret, to move the entire 8 to 100 units from its very centrally convenient location, very next to Tel Aviv, to a base very close to Beersheba. When that happens, okay, that will
When
obviously
is that
make.
happening? When is it happening?
It should have started by now. They've had some hiccups. It's a big infrastructure project. It costs billions, but obviously that needs to be done for a lot of reasons. They're just sitting on very real expensive real estate. It doesn't make any sense for anyone. I mean, they're very cheap manpower. You can literally locate them anywhere you want in Israel. You do have to provide them, with trains and buses and other infrastructure. That would happen in the next 5 years, and I think when this happens, I mean, people will feel a lot more comfortable going from the
Right.
army to the academic
Straight out,
in
and they'll
Beersheba,
stay in the
and yeah,
area.
and then
They'll
start.
stay in the area. So a few things I want to share. First off, Yam Regev says, wonderful session, gents. Thank you. Lior Mash, what's up? Very interesting, insightful. Thank you. That's what we're trying to do here, try to provide value. So if anyone has any other comments or questions, please reach out to us. Yeah, so a couple other things also. I think the university, the Ben Gurion University in the Negevs in Beersheba, I think is also very helpful. And I wouldn't be surprised if you're going to start seeing a lot more cybersecurity technology courses and things in the university. Also, like you said, moving the space to move it there, and all of the army moving there. But also, in my opinion, this is my things. I mean, I really see trends, particularly when it comes to demographics and cities and real estate, is that Beersheba is a great place to invest. I mean, if you're looking to buy and rent, what's the only city in Israel, let's say outside of the Golan, that can basically go north, south, east, west. It can build in every direction. Everyone else is already literally bordering another city. It's you don't even know you cross the street. You're in a different municipality. You wouldn't even know much of Israel. It's ridiculous. And so there's obviously, I think Beersheba is going to be, in 20 years, I think it's going to be the biggest population. I think it's going to surpass Haifa, Tel Aviv, and Rishon LeZion. It'll be second to Jerusalem for like a decade. And then I wouldn't be surprised in 30 years, Beersheba will have the biggest population in Israel, because we have a housing problem here. So you're going to start seeing a lot of easy building of houses and apartments in every direction that can lay down normal infrastructure, which we so badly need. You know what I mean? Yeah. The city can be planned from the beginning, and it doesn't really have, it can really build in any direction. I think it's pretty huge. There's a lot of opportunity there. Yeah. So the university plays a part, and it is true. Once you move 8200 there, you're a young person, you go to the army, you go to, 8200 or something else in the army, and you're working these technology within the army, and then you leave and you have the job opportunity, and you have the engineers there in the army, you know what I mean? A lot of opportunities there, the partners there, and even maybe a couple of VCs there. And then I think it's going to become a real hot spot. And then, I think you'll see an express train from Tel Aviv to, or even probably shuttles to Beersheba. It's really not that far. If you ignore traffic, that is, of course. Yeah, awesome. So let's get back into CyberTech. So the conference, right, it's this week. It starts in 2 hours which is cool. And then I'll be there tomorrow, just so people know. I mean, I'll be there tomorrow. If you're going to CyberTech tomorrow and you want to meet up, let me know. Send me a message on LinkedIn or on Facebook, or you can pop me an email. Also, we have a cybersecurity influencer platform that has taken off, and we're looking for a few things. One, we're looking for a partner to help us build this. If you're an engineer, if you can code, we're looking for someone to give equity or a rev share to, because I know I can't do this alone. We need someone that's actually committed and has skin in the game. And if you're a cybersecurity company, or if you're a cybersecurity professional, if you're a cybersecurity company that wants your content distributed to the top cybersecurity influencers in the world who will share it with their network, and it will come off looking more like basically organically, and you'll get a lot of views and clicks, reach out to me. And if you want to be an influencer, you want to share this content and get compensated for it, it's very easy. Reach out. We'd be happy to connect you. I know, Yotam, I showed you the platform. You were saying how easy it is. You just grab a link, you copy paste, and then get paid. Cool. It's ridiculous. You find a blog you want, you copy, you paste, you share it on socials, and you don't come off as an influencer. You're just sharing with original content, basically, and by the way, for the cybersecurity companies, those people get cookied and then they get remarketed very inexpensively with Google banner ads and YouTube and so on and so forth. So the value is so much more than the cheap pennies it costs in order to work with our platform. So if you're interested, please feel free to reach out to me. And if you have my contact details, reach out to Yotam. He'll get us connected. So CyberTech is this week. And so if I'm a professional and I'm walking around, what should I like? So let's say I'm coming, right? So I'm going to be there. I mean, right? We do lead generation marketing, and we have a cybersecurity influencer platform, right? Or you serve or want to serve cybersecurity companies in some capacity. What do you recommend to people coming to this event? Two things keeping in mind. One is the culture here. Let's say if it was here as opposed to, let's say, in the States or the UK, will be very different when you approach these founders. Very, very different. So one, the cultural difference that they need to understand when you approach founders of startups and cybersecurity in particular. And second, why this event is unique, in general. So what do you advise people that are going to be attending CyberTech, and probably, I guess, in general, when you're going to network with Israelis?
So it's a great question. The most helpful tip I can get is once you register, you get that template. Okay, it has all the events in it, but in the end, you have a list of all the companies. Take a minute before you walk in because it is crowded. It's not as big as RSA or Black Hat, but it is a big venue and there are hundreds of companies there. Okay, just try to think which companies you want to see because it's not always easy to find. I mean, just a very practical tip. I was there yesterday. They're building everything. It's gonna be very nice, but it's crowded. It's noisy. That's the way conferences are these days. Okay, so take the time and to think about which companies you actually want to meet. Second of all, you talked about the uniqueness. Israelis were very upfront, so that means in most of the booths you'll find one of the founding members. That's very rare. And when you go to RSA, you see the sales team, perhaps the marketing. The members will be out there doing something else. Okay, so don't be afraid to come up and talk to the people. You can ask really difficult questions about the technology. Most of them will have demo on site. Okay, so if you want to learn about the technology, it's a great place to do it. I don't think it's a good place to have sales conversations because people, are very anxious to show their stuff to a lot of people. But the nice thing about CyberTech is they have a dedicated B2B area, some nice sitting areas. You can walk outside. The weather is lovely. So you can grab a coffee, sit on one of the benches outside if you really want to have like a chill down conversation. The other thing that being Israel and Israelis and Tel Aviv is such a nice city is if you want to meet someone and you don't have the time and they're busy at the booth, you can simply come up, take their card, and then just schedule, some coffee or perhaps even grab a beer afterwards. That's what I always try to do with the people that I fancy meeting. It's not a good place to have conversation. It's busy. They have, to have their attention split. So take it off site. I'm not saying don't come to the event, but if you see something interesting, and another benefit is, as you all said, most of the companies are located in the area. So if you've seen someone today, the product's interesting, you want to go, you can just schedule, take a short Uber ride, meet them at their office, meet with their team, see a proper demo, and then come back to the show. You can do it all because it's quiet. It's not like RSA where people travel half around the world, and except for the booth, they don't have anything. Um, the second
Good
thing
point.
that Israelis are quite pushy. Okay, so they'll try to sell their stuff. They'll present it as the next best thing. And what I encourage you to do is again ask the simple question that I've raised before: which category your product belongs to, what problem does it solve, how you do it differently. Please explain to me. If they have a demo, it's cool. Usually,
Right.
that they have the products is
Right.
developed to a certain extent. Don't fall for the buzzwords. Okay, a lot of people will sell you that simply because they don't know any better.
Don't fall for the what? What did you say?
For the buzzwords
The
and
buzzwords. Oh yeah, 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 yeah,
yeah.
yeah. Give
As
me
I
an
said,
example. What buzzword should people not fall for?
people you'll come to the booth, you'll ask it usually with inexperienced founders. You ask them what they're selling and say my product is cyber something and it's a machine learning algorithm.
Right.
Okay, what I tell to these people is look, when you go to buy a new car, you don't buy the engine, you buy the
Right.
car. The engine is one of the features. You
One of
can
the main.
explain to me about the feature, but tell me, what does the product, does it detect better, does it respond quicker, does it save me man
You're,
hours?
you're saying the founders that even have funding, have a product, still don't have a good elevator pitch when they're asked.
I think they have very good elevator pitch for investors. I don't think they know how to market their stuff. I mean, that's where you and I come in. I
Right.
mean, Yoel's been very humble here. He's actually working with tons of cybersecurity companies,
Thank you. Thank
and
you.
he suffered from exactly what like the buzzword, the jargon. That's something that you cannot put on a LinkedIn ad. No one will click something that's filled with buzzwords. I mean, you have
Right.
to be, and
You have to know.
also
Right.
uh, being a digital marketer at heart, you all know that it's all about targeting. I mean, if you're not focused, if you don't know which target audience, people won't click the ad or go to the website. Same goes for a booth at a conference. I mean, the first thing you should do is ask for qualifying questions, both as a seller and as a visitor. Okay, and if it's not interesting, you can move on. But if it is, you know that this guy's in. I mean, you don't ask if you have a budget. But what I'll ask people is, okay, if my product is dealing with cloud environments, I would ask the guy that come in, do you have any cloud deployment? If it's a bank and they're all on premise and stuff, then okay, it's not relevant. But if it is, you can have a more educated discussion, and you don't have to give the sell pitch. The guy says, okay, it's not interesting, just gives you the card and walks away.
Right. So yeah, so you bring up something really good, and I think this really goes to anything in life, particularly when business is that you got to come prepared. I mean, if you're coming to this event, you don't know who you want to speak to and what you want to speak with. I mean, there's a great they have a networking app that's kind of buggy but works. I mean, I've already got a list of who we're going to visit, who their names, their company, their names, some of their phone numbers and email, so I can reach them so we can speak to them directly about our cybersecurity influencer platform. So I mean, yeah, like you come prepared, have a little bit of a roadmap because, like you said, you'll get in there and it's just like it will be busy, it will be crowded, it will be loud, like so. Have a little bit of a game plan. Like, what are your goals? Who are the companies you must speak to? Go with them first, right? Or the professional you want to meet with. Knock that out of the way first. And take advantage of that. And if you get there early, by the way, which is always my advice, get there early and you can speak to them when there aren't lines. Don't go and get that coffee and sit and relax with a friend. Don't sit on your hands. Go out there and speak to the companies that you can help. We're really here in the end. We're like, obviously, we are all, whether you're a cybersecurity company or you're an investor or you're a professional, obviously, we all want more business, we want to grow, but we only do that by providing value and by making human-to-human connections. Even though cybersecurity, it might think so, it's so non-human in a sense, but it's really so imperatively human. So make sure, particularly here in Israel, so make sure you make those human-to-human connections and don't just hang out within your comfort zone. Step out of your comfort zone, because if you're going to talk to Israelis, they are going to take you out of your comfort zone. I absolutely promise you. So you want to make sure to. So if you're not going to be in control to step out of your comfort zone, they're going to drag you out of it, and you'll be a little bit confused, and you won't be able to maximize the opportunity and the
I
value.
just want to chime in on that last point because you're making us look bad. If you do come to a booth and you speak to the guys over there and you find that it's not interesting for you, the next thing you should do is ask them, okay, this is what I'm interested in. Can you please guide me to the company I should visit? And
Very good.
sometimes they
Very
will
good.
walk out of the booth and they will take you to their neighbors. It could be their competitors,
Right.
by the way.
That's exactly right. That's uniquely
They don't
Israeli.
mind because they know cyber is a big area. No one can have all the products, and it's okay. You can have more than several cybersecurity products. It's best for them to give you a helpful advice down the way. Perhaps in a couple of years, you'll need their product, and then you'll come calling them. People will do that for you. I'll do that for you. If you have any need, you want to meet a specific company, just ping me on LinkedIn. I'll tell you where to go. Even if there are competitors,
Right.
I don't mind because I know it's better that you don't waste your time on people who don't provide any value, as you all mentioned.
Well, likewise. I mean, sometimes some people come, they come to us to do the LinkedIn advertising and lead generation and things of the sort. And if they find that we're too expensive or not the right fit, I know there are people I'm happy to connect them with. You can say our competitors, but there's, as my dad says, referring to the dating scene, there's many fish in the sea. So, it's good, have a good reputation, go out and try to help people and be a connector, and you'll be surprised. What goes around comes around. And actually, it's very uniquely Israeli is that you would have competitors, because in the end, the ecosystem, if there isn't an ecosystem, it's not helpful. It's just like having a store, right, in a mall. And you want the other malls, even if they're competing and selling similar clothes, if they all go away, if you don't have your competition around and nearby, you don't have an ecosystem, you're a dead mall, and no one's coming to the mall, and therefore no one's coming to your store, right?
Correct.
So it's very important to have a lot of players. It's important to have an ecosystem. It's important to walk people over and show them, here, I can't help you, but they can. Let me help. You know what I mean? And
Correct.
hand it over that way. It's a mature thing to do. Awesome. Before we end this and sign off, anything else regarding cybertech you think people need to know or need to know about visiting Israel and cybersecurity?
Yeah, it's also relates to our last comment. There are a lot of other side events, some of them by VCs, other by companies. You have some offsites, CISO delegation, people coming from abroad. If you want to participate and you're not sure, I mean, just ask around. There isn't a directory that lists all these events, but if you go to one of the VC booths at the show, they'll tell you if they have any events, if they still have any locations. You can speak to people. And if you're staying for the weekend, as you all said, I mean, just consult with the local, ask them what to do. It's fairly nice weather this week in that regard, but it's getting a little bit shitty over the weekend. So you might want to consult with people. You don't want to go all the way to Jerusalem just to find that it's raining and cold. You might be going to the desert and enjoy sunshine, or even bathe in the Dead Sea. So again, ask around. We're not shy. We'll definitely help you. And if we can't, we'll take you to someone who can.
Awesome. And where can people find you?
I'll be standing at SentinalOne booth, so that you walk all the way to the end, you'll see us, and you can ping me. I'll probably be wandering the halls. I mean,
So LinkedIn.
myself and you, we
LinkedIn message.
cannot walk.
Will you be checking your LinkedIn messages if they can message you here on LinkedIn?
Yeah, yeah, sure.
All
And
right.
as
So
I
search for
said,
Yotam.
Yoel and myself, we cannot walk through the halls without saying hi every, I
Every
don't
few
know, few
minutes.
seconds or so. So
Right.
it's like that with the ecosystem. We're not unique. Everybody
Right.
knows everybody else. It's kind of like a gathering. So in that sense, it's very familiar and nice.
It's like a high school reunion.
Yeah.
Yeah. So if you see Yotam or myself at the conference, I'll be there tomorrow on Wednesday. Feel free to come up and say hi. I want a few last words for a couple people, just a little bit of house cleaning. If you're interested in cybersecurity influencer marketing, the only platform in the world, reach out to us, whether you're a cybersecurity company that wants your information shared with CISOs and the most important influencers, or if you're posting about cybersecurity already on socials. You don't have to be a big influencer if you're posting on it and you're in that profession, in that space, and you're already sharing that stuff. We curate the content, you get compensated for it. Please message or ping me, or if you need any other lead generation for cybersecurity companies, we're here to help. And welcome to Israel. Enjoy CyberTech. And if you have any questions, you can always reach out to Yotam or myself. We're happy to help. All right, signing off, everyone. Thank you.
Cheers. Bye.
Bye.